All right, good morning, everybody. Ah, ah, ah. This story might not be interesting to all of my viewers, but I'll try to explain it because to me it's just a very strange story. I really just need to vent. A lot of times making these videos, this is my therapy session dealing with the world, and I'm thankful to God for all the good things that go on in the world. And I see God's hand in everything, but I think this is part of it too. That we have this little bit of entertainment from things that might be a little frustrating in the world. Nothing really majorly bad. Just when I told one of my rabbis about it, he said, this would be a good story for Purim, which is the time when we'll have plays and jokes and things. And he couldn't believe that it was a real story, just because of the culture of our communities. So I want to clarify something first before we get into this. So the there's a canard that people in Orthodox Jewish communities, they don't get married legally in order to do what they call it, to do welfare fraud, and it's just not true. First of all, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't matter if you're married or not married. In fact, the truth is, in the welfare system, you often get a little bit more generally with food stamps, with the ones that are a little bit easier to get in New York, if you are legally married. And if you're not legally married, you wind up getting less. So it depends on how many people live in your house, not on whether you're married or not. But I think, if I remember properly, with food stamps and Medicaid, a lot of it works out better if you are legally married. So that's the next thing they're going to say, is that the Orthodox Jews, they get legally married in order to bilk the welfare system. That's going to be what they're going to say next. So, but what I think part of the reason why people are under this impression is that in a lot of the Orthodox communities, the bride and groom don't see each other from when they are engaged until they're married. And some do and some don't. There are different communities. This happened to be someone from a community where they would see each other. They wouldn't touch each other, but they would see each other, talk to each other, visit each other during an engagement. This particular community that I'm talking about, not a Hasidic community, but nonetheless, it sometimes happens that, for logistical reasons, the ideal way to do things is that you get the marriage license and the rabbi performing the wedding signs the license. Now, in certain places like New York City, the rabbi has to be registered. Not every rabbi bothers to get registered, but the truth is, if you're a rabbi of a synagogue, it's not that difficult to get registered, and it's something you just have to do once in your life. But there are other logistical reasons why sometimes, I know where we live, quite often people will get the marriage license well before their religious ceremony and get legally married maybe a few months earlier, particularly if they live in Brooklyn. They don't want to have to wait in line to get the marriage license in Brooklyn, and also they don't want to have to appear together before the clerk. Our clerk allows one at a time because they both have to appear, but if they're not that busy, the bride comes by herself, the groom comes by himself, they both fill out the paperwork. And now a lot of things you can do online, but a lot of these folks don't have any internet or anything. So that's the situation. But that's beside the point. But anyway, and then our rabbi, performs the legal marriage, and it's well before they're legally married, before they're religiously married. Sometimes, I know in the Curious Joel community, generally what is done is that they'll have their religious marriage, and maybe the next day they'll go to the clerk, get the marriage license, and then go back to the rabbi and he'll sign it. for that day that he's signing it, not when he performed the ceremony, but nonetheless, that's the way it's generally done. I'm just being honest. They're not doing that for any type of fraudulent purposes, but rather they do that for logistical purposes. In any event, and I was in the office of the Grand Rabbi of Kiryas Joel. I saw the big stack of marriage licenses that the Rebbe signed and ready to go out. So, and the truth of the matter is, even before the town of Palm Tree, town of Palm Tree seceded from the town of Monroe, the marriage bureau, they deputized the clerk from the Kiryas Joel to do marriage licenses, because the vast majority of marriage licenses in the town of Monroe were coming out of Kiryas Joel. So this whole story about the Hasidic Jews don't get marriage licenses, don't get married legally, etc., it's nonsense. It's silly. For many, many different reasons. But nonetheless, usually what happens, even not the Hasidic community, is that if for some logistical reason you're not able to have the marriage license for the ceremony, they'll do it maybe a week later or 2 weeks later, something like that. And the thing is, it's not only a Jewish thing. I personally, I'm a wedding officiant. I performed Kanai Nahara, like we say, thank God, over 1,000 weddings since 2007. All different types of weddings for all different religions: Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Sikh, Wiccans, atheists, agnostics, all kinds of different couples, and usually it's just a non-denominational ceremony. I have done some Jewish weddings, probably though less than 100 of my 1,000 marriage licenses I've signed have been Jewish weddings, and also often I'll have couples who are already married legally, and then maybe they convert together, and we do the religious ceremony. That's probably the majority of the Jewish weddings I've done over the years, but I've done many, many different weddings over the years, thank God. And I advertise on a website called Thumbtack.com that I perform weddings. And the way Thumbtack works, a lot of people don't know, is that if you write to me on Thumbtack, I get charged whether you hire me or not. It depends what price they charge. Might be $10, might be $20, might be $30, and a lot of that depends on the competition and other things going on. In general, for example, if the lead is in New York City, the fee is going to be more expensive, closer to $30, maybe sometimes even closer to $40, depending on different situations, as opposed to if it's somewhere in a rural area, it might be $5, $10. Depends on sometimes they give it for free. They're all different. I don't know exactly how their algorithm works, but that's how it is. In any event, that's how it is. I get charged whether people hire. If someone writes me, whether they hire me or not, I get charged. That's just how Thumbtack works. So anyway, I get a lead yesterday. I see a name. I'm not going to say the person's name, of course, but I see a Jewish-sounding name, and I recognize the last name. It's not a common name, but I recognize the family name. I know the family, and someone from what we would call the yeshivish world. That's different from the Hasidic world. Those are although the non-Hasidic ultra-Orthodox is the way we would say it. So meaning you see people, a lot of them don't have beards, or after they're married they have a trimmed beard. A lot of them, some have a full beard, and generally they'll wear a suit jacket with a tie and a fedora hat, and then some of the rabbis will wear a frock and a Hamburg hat, and that's or a frock with a fedora hat, different things. So it's different than the Hasidic communities, So then you have Lubavitch, who dress more similar to the yeshivish or Lithuanian style, which really, and then you'll have the other Hasidic groups, some of which also, not as a group, but like individuals who kind of are culturally, we would say yeshivish, but maybe religiously Hasidic. They might have various forms of dress. You might see someone who, on the Sabbath, wears a bekisha with a fedora hat, might be clean shaven, might have a beard, might wear a tie, might not wear a tie, and different customs, how that is done in the different communities. It's everything, everybody does their own thing. Each community has, but anyway, it's a very religious community, the yeshivish community. It's not that the Hasidim are more religious than the yeshivish, or that the yeshivish are more religious than the Hasidish. It's they each have their own various aspects of their culture that are slightly different in various things, and then again, even within these communities, you have different ways, different minhagim, different cultures, different personalities, different stereotypes that exist, and so forth. So in any event, I knew this family. They wrote to me, and they wrote to a Christian minister, and they said, we're thinking we'd like to have a nice, creative officiant perform our ceremony. Now, when you write to me, the price is listed there. The price I'm currently at, and I'm always flexible with the price. The price that's listed is $250. Right, which is a normal going rate for a wedding officiant that includes my travel. It's actually lower than a lot of officiants. I know a lot of officiants who they start at $500, $600, $700, and then I know a lot of officiants that the 150, 175 is an average number. So right now the going rate is about $200, and since I have a lot of experience, I feel comfortable asking $250. Sometimes I get a little more. Thank God. I don't want any ayin hara. And the thing is, it costs money, because I'm spending usually about $300 a month on this website, thumbtack.com, for advertising. So I have to get at least one wedding a month just to break out even. And sometimes I do better, but thank God. I don't want to talk about my business aspects. I'm just talking about this story. It's just such a weird story to me. The weirdest thing is that they wanted a ceremony, like with 10 members of their family there, and like I should actually do like I do's and everything like that, which we don't do that in the Jewish ceremony usually. I mean, if I'm performing a ceremony for a Jewish couple that's not that religious, I might have some modified aspects of that. Generally what I'll say is like, is your consideration in giving this ring in order to affect Kedushin according to I do, and then is your intention receiving this ring in order to affect the Kedushin, etc. That's kind of the way I approach it. But in any event, and that's actually halachically the proper thing to do, even though generally in our communities we don't do that. It's just Harayit Mekadeshesli. The bride doesn't say anything, the groom says a few words, and then the rabbi and other honorees say all the blessings and so forth. That's generally how it's done. So anyway, and everything's in Hebrew except the ketubah is in Aramaic, and it's a funny type of a thing that for a yeshivish couple to ask after they're already married, right? We want someone to make like a cute little ceremony for us, but the customers are always right. I didn't question it. I just, when I told my rabbi that, he knew this family, he's very good friends with this groom's grandfather, who was a very prominent rabbi, very, in the summer, it was a neighbor of ours, more or less, not in our town, but the next town over, and someone who was very good friends with our rabbi. This groom's grandfather passed away a couple of years ago now. I think it was before COVID hit, or just before. I think it was actually rather all of a sudden that he passed away. But in any event, it was like I know the family. I worked for the groom's father. I was only talking to the bride. And it was his father-in-law was this rather well-known rabbi. I actually knew, also met a few times. I know other members I know the family. And so I'm not going to question that they want this type of ceremony or whatever, but it just so happened, whatever. They're in a particular town with a big Jewish community, big Orthodox Jewish community, very diverse Orthodox Jewish community, outside of New York City, in New York State. And which, when you say that, you pretty much know where we're talking about. And it so happened to be I was there in that town. So they said to me, I talked to the bride, and she said, or the wife, they're already married, but they need someone to sign a marriage license. They said, well, we could go tomorrow to the Justice of the Peace for $50. I said, well, you don't need to do that. Your father-in-law's a rabbi. He has smicha. He's ordained, and it's not the 5 boroughs of New York City. He could just sign it, and then it's done. That's you don't need, but you want me to come over for $50? I'll sign it now. And then they said, well, it was 3 o'clock. They said, well, we'd like to do a ceremony at 6 o'clock. I said, well, if you want me to wait for 3 hours, I would appreciate. All right, my normal price is $250. Can you do $200? If you want. I mean, I have a lot of experience. I can make a nice ceremony. I didn't question the whole thing about making the ceremony, even though it's not within our shared culture, me being somewhat Hasidic, but having learned in more, modern yeshivish schools, my first 2 schools were Bali Tshuva schools, but were pretty serious schools, and then the third one was more of between modern Orthodox and yeshivish crowd, and kind of what you might call right-wing modern Orthodox and liberal yeshivish, somewhere in between those two worlds is kind of where Lander College, I guess, would fit. But still, I never heard of such a thing in any of those worlds to have a ceremony for a marriage license. I've heard that sometimes, all right, you need someone to sign the marriage license. You get it signed sometime, and Shalom Al Yisrael, it takes 2 seconds. You sign the paper. But the thing was, so they were like, well, could you wait in this town, in this 2 counties away from where you live, 90 minutes from where you live, wait there for 3 hours. I mean, I could go home and back in that time for $50. I was like, not for $50. It was, well, how about $100? I said, I'll wait an hour for $100, but I'm not going to wait 3 hours. I'll wait maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. I said, maybe 100. They said, and then in the end, I said, all right, I'll do it for $100, and I'll wait till 6 o'clock. And my wife was there, and she wanted to go home already and everything. And my wife said, she's a chaplain. She could sign it too, legally, technically. She does them. Sometimes she signs the marriage licenses too, as an officiant, as a minister, because as the rabbin said, she's also a minister. She works in ministry, and she's a chaplain, and she could do it. So anyway. Then they said no, but I don't understand, I'm asking a fair price. I'm offering, I said, I'll do it right now for $50. I told him, you already cost me whatever. I thought it was $25. It happened to be only $15 that it cost me. But I was like, you already cost me this money whether you hire me or not. So I'm willing to work with you and then they just got annoyed, and the whole thing is very, very strange to me. But I know the family also, and they're not, I don't know this couple, but I'm saying the family in general, it's not a super wealthy family, but a well-to-do family. And I know, like, certainly one of the groom's cousins, he was a neighbor of ours. He sold his house recently, but a person who's very, very well-to-do, I believe, is a millionaire. And that they're handling sich over, an extra $100, this or that, for because you're asking for more than is necessary. Meaning, you're for $50 or even less. I'll sign the papers for free. I don't care. But you're asking me to wait 3 hours, do a ceremony. I happen to be a person who has experience. I can make a nice ceremony. That's what I do. Like, in addition to my full-time work and everything else, I can make a beautiful ceremony. But if you're going to get anybody to do it, and they said, first of all, if it's a question as a Jewish couple, between hiring a rabbi and hiring somebody who's from another religion, I think you want to hire a rabbi. I would assume, if you're Orthodox Jewish, ultra-Orthodox Jewish couple, and the thing is, I looked up the minister that they reached out to was asking $300, and I was asking $250. I don't think he's going to give them. I don't think he's going to budge and say, "Oh, I'll do it right now for $50." But the whole thing is just, it's weird on two sides. Meaning, it's weird on one side that an ultra-Orthodox couple wants a ceremony like this, or is even thinking. I think in the end they're not going to do the ceremony. I think in the end they're just going to have their rabbi sign it, because at least I educated them that they don't need to waste that $50 to go to a judge to get it signed. Any rabbi can sign it, including, like I said, I'm pretty sure their father-in-law he's an ordained rabbi, he can sign it, but that they want this. And then they told me, and also the other thing is, two of our guests just tested positive for COVID. It's the other thing they told me. And I said, all right, I'm not that worried about it. I can wear a mask. I have the 2 vaccines. I don't have the booster, but I have the vaccine. I'm what's, I guess, considered to be fully vaccinated. It could be a little bit of a risk because of my work. I don't want to bring it into the work, but I think we're already over it. But whatever it is, it's what it is. But then I get hazard pay. You want to pay me $50 or $100 to perform a ceremony when 2 people are positive for COVID. When you don't even need this. You already had your ceremony. You had a religious ceremony with your rabbi. I'm willing to help you out. I'm willing to just sign the papers if that's what you want. You tell me you want a big ceremony. I'm willing to do the big ceremony, but that's not, the whole thing. It's weird, but it's entertaining, and I thank God for the entertainment. It was worth the $15. I've spent more than that to go to a movie. This, I think, is more entertaining than a lot of movies I've seen recently. It's more than $15 to go to a movie. No, I don't even know, but I don't remember I know I saw, just before COVID hit, I saw King Kong in the movie theater. All right, and I go to these conventions and we see I go to the drive-in. I saw Godzilla vs. Gigan in the drive-in last summer. That was fun, from 1972. And I saw, I'm trying to remember, Godzilla vs. Kong. I watched on HBO Max. That's $15 a month. So, as much as I enjoyed Godzilla vs. Kong, I only watched it the one time. I like the original from 1962 much better, right? But anyway, I think this story is a lot more entertaining to me than than Godzilla vs. Kong. I think I'll remember this for a lot longer. So I'm thankful to God for the entertainment. A little confused, It should be a kapara for whatever it is, but. And I know there's a lot of things I need the kapara for, a lot of things I need atonement for, but it's a funny story. Maybe this story will be entertaining enough that it'll go viral, and we'll go, God willing, we'll get monetized again, and we'll make that money back on YouTube. So thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. Maybe, I don't know, maybe other people don't think it's as entertaining as I think it is, but it's a funny story to me. Particularly, I think anybody from a frum background, even the modern Orthodox, they don't do something like that. I had a havamina to do it. Why? Myself. Meaning, because I didn't get the marriage license right away. Not because I wasn't seeing my wife before we're married, but because a lot of logistics wound up, when it was time to file my taxes, and I was a Rav in Virginia, I was a senior rabbi in the synagogue, they were like, you need to get married. I was like, well, we've been married, which is we need the marriage license. So it was like a year later, I finally got the marriage license, and I got the Lubavitch Shliach, Rabbi Kranz, signed my marriage license. It was, I got married on Yutes Kislev, or it was Chav Kislev already, and so I went to the Farbrengen, at the Farbrengen Inn, Yutes Kislev, and Rabbi Kranz signed my marriage license, So that was, and I gave him $50, even though he didn't ask for it. But I gave him $50 for signing my marriage license. But that's the thing. I don't understand a frum couple who goes to a judge, because it was one of the rebbeim in the yeshiva there. His daughter got married.